नमस्कार शिक्षार्थियों, आज के सेशन में आप सभी का स्वागत है। आज हम बात करेंगे साइकोलॉजी की सीनियर सेकेंडरी लेवल पे और आज का हमारा चैप्टर है साइकोलॉजी अंडरस्टैंडिंग सेल्फ एंड अदर्स। सो फर्स्ट वी गोना डिस्कस द ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ द चैप्टर। सो लेट्स बिगिन विद इट। So our first objective for the day is understanding the need for the study of psychology and nature of psychology. So we are going to understand why do we need to study psychology in the first place and what are the different components that are involved in psychology. Next we are going to understand what a psychologist does or what psychologists do. Understanding the development of psychology as a discipline, where we will talk about the historical aspect and the developmental aspect of psychology in terms of a discipline. Then we'll talk about the relationship of psychology with other allied disciplines, how psychology is, involving other subjects into it. For example, conducting different research and, multidisciplinary approach को कैसे psychology use कर रहा है. We are going to understand that also in this aspect. Next is exploring the changing face of psychology and different fields of psychology. So we'll see what are the different fields of psychology, how it is being applied in the field and how it is developing currently. Okay, so let's begin with it. So our first topic is need for the study of psychology. So psychology promises to help us in understanding how various mental functions operate and how people behave in different conditions. So psychology basically helps us in understanding our mental functions, what all is going in our brain and how do we operate it through our behavior, how do it manifest itself in terms of behavior, that we try to understand through the study of psychology. And how people behave in different conditions. So how situation influence a person's behavior is also one thing that is being studied under psychology. Next it says that psychology is relevant to solving teaching learning problems in schools, problems in socializing children at home, motivating people in organizations and helping people to solve their emotional problems in personal lives. So basically these are some of the applications of psychology and how it is being used in the field. For example, there are more applications. For example, selection of people for various jobs, assessing abilities and aptitudes of people, providing training for developing skills, setting goals and motivating people to achieve them and improving the style of life for better health. And these are some of the popular applications of psychology. So you saw how it is being applied in the field of education, how it is being applied in the field of organizations and job and employment part as well, and how parents can also use psychology to actually shape the behavior of their child or children. And there are multiple other applications also. We'll come across them as we move forward. So next it says that understanding the growth and development of a person, a functioning of a group are important areas of psychological applications. So here we are talking about two major aspects of psychology. These are growth and development, which is one of the research area under developmental psychology. So developmental psychology is one of the major research area under psychology. Second, it says that functioning of a group. When we talk about a group, we are talking about a social society or say social group, because whenever it comes to groups, we are obviously talking about social zones. So when we talk about social, it means social psychology. Social psychology is a major research area under psychology, and these two are very important also, because under social psychology we understand how a society functions, how an individual functions in society. So that is why it is important. And the next point says that a proper study and understanding of psychology can help us understand ourselves and others better and enhance the quality of life. So this is one of the goals of the subject psychology, enhancing the quality of life. So here it says that a proper study and understanding of psychology can help us understand ourselves and others, which was the title of our chapter, understanding self and others. So if we understand the theories, the principles that are there in this field, we will be able to understand ourselves and those who are around us in a better manner. And therefore we can apply these principles and rules or the theories that are there to enhance the quality of our life. So let's move forward. So now we are going to discuss the nature of psychology. So it says that any observable action is an outcome of a coordination of brain, mind, behavior. So it says कोई भी observable action that you are able to see is an outcome of coordination of brain, mind and behavior. So whenever you act in a situation or whenever someone else act in a situation, it basically is obviously like a result of three factors: brain, which is our mind, which is dimag, mind, which is man, behavior, which is our व्यवहार. So इन तीनों फैक्टर के इन्वॉल्वमेंट से जो भी चीज हम ऑब्जर्व कर पाते हैं उसी को हम अंडर साइकोलॉजी स्टडी करते हैं. So a major point to note here is that it has been written brain mind. Why is brain different from mind? The first question that arises here. Yes, brain is different from mind. How? So brain is organic. Brain can be seen, brain can be felt, but mind is not organic in nature. It is something which manifests itself through behavior. Mind is man. मन हमारा किसी बॉडी के ऑर्गन की तरह नहीं है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी हैव किडनीज, वी हैव आईज, वी हैव ईयर्स, लेकिन मन का कोई ऑर्गन नहीं है. मन अपने आप को व्यवहार के रूप में दिखाता है. तो इसीलिए साइकोलॉजी में बिहेवियर, माइंड और ब्रेन को इसीलिए अलग अलग कंसीडर किया गया है. आई होप दैट इज क्लियर टिल हियर. Next it says that brain has a physical structure. That's what we were talking, that brain is organic. Whereas mind is considered a functional correlate of the brain. Mind जो है वो एक functional correlate है brain का, कि brain के जो processes हैं वो mind को एक तरीके से चलाने में मदद करते हैं. लेकिन जो मन है वो सिर्फ brain के processes से नहीं चलता है, वो हमारी पर्सनैलिटी, हमारी सिचुएशंस, उनसे भी बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस होता है. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर एक पर्सन है, so for example if they are say 15-year-old and they are not in the habit of eating say seafood, वो सी फूड खाने की आदत उनको नहीं थी, उनको तब तक लगता था कि नहीं मुझे सी फूड पसंद ही नहीं है. लेकिन एक बार वो कहीं बाहर जाते हैं और वो ट्राई करते हैं सी फूड and they find it really nice, they find it appetizing. तो यहाँ पे जो उनका एक मन में एक जो बिलीफ बना हुआ था कि नहीं मुझे सी फूड पसंद ही नहीं है, वो कैसे चेंज हुआ जब एक बिहेवियर उन्होंने नया किया बिकॉज ऑफ द सिचुएशनल फैक्टर. मान लीजिए सिचुएशनल फैक्टर था कि वहां पे सी फूड ही अवेलेबल था, तो उनके पास कोई और ऑप्शन ही नहीं था खाने का, तो इसलिए उन्होंने सिर्फ सी फूड खाया. लेकिन इवेंचुअली दे रियलाइज दैट नो दे लाइक द टेस्ट ऑफ सी फूड. तो इस तरीके से मन का जो एस्पेक्ट था वो यहाँ पे चेंज भी हुआ. लेकिन ब्रेन हमें कैसे हेल्प करता है? ब्रेन हमें वो सारी चीजें सेंसेशन और परसेप्शन के थ्रू प्रोसेस करने में हेल्प करता है, क्योंकि ब्रेन हमारा नर्वस सिस्टम के अंडर आता है और नर्वस सिस्टम हमें सारी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेस करने में हेल्प करता है. लेकिन उस इंफॉर्मेशन को प्रोसेस करके करना क्या है, हम उसे बिहेवियर में कैसे दिखाएंगे, वो हमारा माइंड हमें हेल्प करता है. सो लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. Psychology tries to understand the laws and principles characterizing the linkages across them in a scientific manner. So it says that psychology tries to understand the laws or the principles, the theories and the practices that have been, taken out from the research, and it characterizes the linkages across them in a scientific manner. तो मान लीजिए कहीं पे कोई स्टडी हुई, अब उस स्टडी में आया, मान लीजिए ओबीडियंस के ऊपर स्टडी हुई कि अगर आप किसी को हैवी पनिशमेंट बोलेंगे तो वो आपकी बात जल्दी मान लेगा. लेकिन इसका रिलेशन क्या है? हाउ डू वी अप्लाई इट इन रियल लाइफ? तो ये जो एप्लीकेशन पार्ट है, ये जो लिंकेज है, ये हमें हेल्प होती है साइकोलॉजी से ही, क्योंकि इस जो भी रिसर्च की ये फाइंडिंग है उसको फिर अप्लाई करके देखा जाएगा. एक्सपेरिमेंटल साइकोलॉजी जो है इस एस्पेक्ट में डील करेगा और इसके ऊपर और रिसर्च स्टडीज फर्दर कंडक्ट की जाएंगी और इसकी वैलिडिटी देखी जाएगी कि ये एक्चुअली वैलिड है भी या नहीं. सो दैट इज हाउ वी एस्टैब्लिश अ लिंक अक्रॉस द फाइंडिंग्स दैट आर देयर इन अ साइंटिफिक मैनर. हाउ? बाय कंडक्टिंग एक्सपेरिमेंटल स्टडीज, बाय कंडक्टिंग रिसर्च. नेक्स्ट वी हैव इज interest in psychological issues has a long past. However, attempts to formalize the understanding of psychological phenomena in modern sense started only during 19th century. So यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं कि साइकोलॉजी का जो स्टडी का जो इंटरेस्ट है वो बहुत पुराना है, वो बहुत पहले से चला आ रहा है, लेकिन एज अ मॉडर्न साइंस और एज अ मॉडर्न सब्जेक्ट it was recently accepted as a discipline in a scientific manner, which was in the 19th century, as you can see. So today psychology is considered as a science as well as a profession contributing to the improvement in quality of life. It focuses primarily on the study of various aspects of mental and behavioral functioning. So here, now today psychology is also considered as a subject and a profession. People who practice psychology are called psychologists, and there are different type of psychologists: clinical psychologist, counseling psychologist, counselors are there. So multiple fields are there under psychology, and there are multiple professions as well under this field. Next, it says that psychology focuses on the mental and behavioral functioning, how the brain and mind are functioning and how we behave. So these are the two major interest area of psychology. Psychologists use scientific methods to understand the causes of behavioral phenomena and develop principles and theories about them. So why is psychology called a science subject? Why it is called scientific in nature? It is called a scientific subject because it has followed certain scientific research methodologies to conduct its studies and to give the findings. And why are they scientific? Because they are reliable in nature, they are valid, and they are standardized as well. Sometimes the studies are standardized as well. So when a research study is reliable and the results can be replicated, so it becomes a scientific methodology of research, and that is why psychology also became a scientific subject. So it says that psychology is a scientific study of mind, brain and behavior. So this is basically the definition of the subject. So like in totality, psychology को कैसे define किया जाता है? It is defined as a scientific study of mind, brain and behavior. We already talked about what is mind, how it is different from brain and what is behavior. But let's dive into behavior term a little more. So behavior is of two types, covert and overt. Covert behavior is the one which goes internally. It can be in the form of thoughts and in terms of memory when you're processing memories. But when it comes to overt behavior, it means the behavior that can be seen by others as well. The behavior that can be seen is overt behavior. And there is one school of psychology that has focused on overt behavior a lot. So we'll discuss about that later on. So for now, the definition of the psychology is, it is a scientific study of mind, brain and behavior. So let's move forward with this definition. Okay, so now we are going to talk about what psychologists do. So now we are going to talk about what is the job role here. How do psychologists come into play? Okay, a psychologist uses certain procedures and tools to collect information and tries to draw inferences and conclusions about the probable causes of behavior. So it is kind of, limited in nature, but this is actually a little crux of the field. So they use different procedures where by using different procedures they collect information, and after collecting that information they will analyze the information and they will draw out inferences out of it. Okay, so what does a particular variable means, and if there are fluctuation in the variable, where does that fluctuation come from and how does that fluctuation affected the person? So analyzing the data to a depth where it becomes meaningful in terms of understanding the behavior of the person, or for that matter a group. So here this is a major role of a psychologist. Next we have twin goals that psychologists share. First is understanding and explaining the complexities of behavior. Second is contributing to the improvement of the quality of human life. First is understanding and explaining the complexities. Second is enhancing the quality of human life. But it doesn't mean that psychology only contributes to humans. It does contribute to animals as well, to environment as well. There are, different fields. For example, the studies where animals are focused in terms of research is known as ethology. The field is called ethology or comparative psychology as well. So there we focus on animal behavior. So let's move forward. Okay, the academic psychologists pursuing basic research are interested in the first goal, which was to explain the complexities of human behavior. So psychologists who are pursuing academics and they pursue basic research are basically focusing on understanding and explaining the human behavior. Next, they say that they try to hypothesize about the diverse aspects of behavior and mental processes. So this is basically how they do their research. So they will give a hypothesis about a certain situation where a behavior is being done, and when that behavior is being done or is being conducted, they will collect the data and they will then draw out inferences out of that data. Next, it says that the academic psychologists develop principles, laws and theories using various methods such as observation and experimentation. So they said that academic psychologists give the different theories, the different principles, the different laws that are there in the field, and they said that they give such theories and laws by using methods such as observation, experimentation. There is interview also, there is questionnaire, there are multiple methods. So we have just mentioned 2 here. Next is they make efforts to describe, explain, predict and control behavioral phenomena. So there are 4 major goals which are as follows: describe, explain, control and predict a behavior. So if you need to understand it, a little deeper, you can understand it through for example, let's say there is a disease that is going on viral currently. So for example, let's say there is a viral fever which was not known to human being before, but now is there. Okay? So what a psychologist will do, they will first see the symptoms of the person who has viral fever, or they will basically see a sample of people and see what are the common symptoms. So they will describe viral fever. So this was description. The first stage is describing the symptoms of the fever. Next is explaining. So explaining they will see what all situational causes are there. So for example, is it communicable? Does this disease, does this spread through air or water, or how does it go from one person to another? So they will explain the causes behind it of how it is spreading, or many other elements are also there. Then controlling we will see what are the medications that work for this fever. Is it a normal medication, or say if you have any home remedies also this can be treated. So they will see that part also, how do we control that disease. And fourth is predicting. So prediction what we will do is, how can we take caution for the next time? How can we prevent it from happening in the first place? So that is prevention. So there is no need to cure it. So this is how the 4 goals of psychology are also used: describing the behavior, explaining the causes behind the behavior, controlling the behavior if it is undesirable, and reinforcing if it is desirable, and then predicting in terms of what will come next, or if this person is behaving like this will happen, and if they like this, then this will happen. So there is prediction also involved in it. So these were the 4 major goals of psychology. Earlier we discussed the twin goals of psychologists. These are the goals of psychology. So we need to keep a little difference here. So keep that in mind. So next is, now we are going to discuss the second goal, which was to enhance the human life. The second goal is addressed by applied psychologists who are practitioners. They try to use psychological knowledge in solving various human problems. They are engaged in activities like counseling therapy, personal selection, career guidance, consultancy in organizational behavior, example, team building, decision making, leadership training. Next is consumer surveys and psychological assessment and training in various skills, example, communication and self-presentation. Okay, so let's, go one by one on the different parts of this second goal and how applied psychologists are actually focusing on these goals. Okay, so ये तो क्लियर है कि अप्लाइड साइकोलॉजिस्ट जो है वो सेकंड गोल पे फोकस कर रहे हैं, विच इज टू एनहांस क्वालिटी ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ. हाउ कैन दैट बी डन? इट कैन बी डन बाय using the theories, laws and principles given by the academic psychologist and applying them to the field and giving them to people, how to actually use them, how do we apply them, what is the application of the theories and the laws that were given. So this is being done by the applied psychologists. That's why they are called applied, because they are applying the knowledge. They are telling you how to do its application. I hope that is clear. Okay, they try to use the psychological knowledge in solving various human problems. So for example, there is a theory of operant conditioning, where if you give reinforcement to a child to promote a desirable behavior, the reinforcement, the positive reinforcement will increase the chances of the behavior happening again and again. Okay, so now the theory was given by B.F. Skinner. Now the applications are being used currently as well. The theory was given back like in the 90s, but it is still being used today in the 2000 as well. How? Because of the applicability of it. It traveled, and it is still there. It is still being, researched and how it can be used better. So that is what application part is about and how applied psychologists are doing it. So here multiple activities has been mentioned. Counseling therapy. Therapy में we use different theories के basis पे different therapeutic practices होती हैं. जैसे for example, cognitive behavioral therapy is one, which is based on cognition and the behavioral thought of school as well. Behaviorism और cognition के school से मिला के एक therapy बनाई गई जिसे CBT कहते हैं, which is cognitive behavior therapy, and it is used to treat depression. So this is one application of the theory or the principle given by an academic psychologist. Okay. Next it says career guidance. Career guidance में we use multiple tools and research interest inventories, the aptitude test and the ability test to see what is the potential of an individual, how to use it. To shape it in a better manner, we use all the tests and inventories developed by the academic psychologist, and these are being applied in the field by the academic applied psychologists. I hope this is clear till here. So we can move forward. Okay. So development of psychology as a discipline. Now we are going to talk about a little about the historical part of psychology, how it came into play, how it became a scientific subject and what was its history like. So first we are going to talk about the Indian thought system. It says the Indian thought systems like Veds, Samakya, Yoga, Buddhism, Jainism, Sufism, etc. have generated voluminous literature relevant to psychological processes. So it says that, there is a multiple or say a load of information available in Indian scriptures on the different psychological processes of a human. So we can see that psychology was there earlier, like 2000 or 3000 years back also, but today it is being focused in a different manner. It is being treated as a subject also. Earlier it was being, noted, and it was being, there was literature being generated on it, but it was not identified as a particular subject. But today that has been done. Okay, so let's move forward. But there is a need to understand the concept in Indian context because social and cultural settings have their own influence on the development of psychology. Okay, so why all these scriptures cannot give, continuous or say why this literature is still not so much applicable to us? It is to some extent, but then there are certain obsolete part as well. So how to deal with that? Why is that happening? Because there have been social and cultural changes in the field. So that is why we are going to see how it has developed and what are the changes that has occurred in the field. So we'll meet after a break.
NIOS, the largest open distance learning system in the world, promotes optimum use of educational technology with a motto to reach the unreached and deprived learners nationwide. NIOS also emphasizes the development of self-reliant India with quality education for the masses by meaningful innovations. NIOS has launched Virtual Open School or VOS platform to provide quality, affordable education to the enrolled learners. This platform has various flexible features. Learners will be able to participate in the live classes on this platform. Trained teachers from across the country will be able to interact and clear doubts of the learners related to their respective subjects online. The recorded videos will also be available on this platform for the learners who missed their live sessions. Learners will also get the facility to submission of online TMA, tutor marks assignment, as well as they will get feedback after the assessment, online examination and practicals direct from home through virtual labs on this innovative platform. This platform is also equipped with artificial intelligence based remote proctored examination and certification facilities. Not only this, learners can get information of Indian knowledge tradition, artificial intelligence, cyber security, mobile technician, retail management, yoga, beauty therapy and many more such courses. Apart from this, skill-based course material and Microsoft course material of NIOS is also available on this virtual open school platform. Along with the creativity development among the learners, now it will be easier to develop employability and ensure access to various job portals. One of the objectives of VOS portal is to make inclusive education accessible to all the Divyang learners through school curriculum, including entrepreneurship and skill development. Registration on Virtual Open School or VOS is free for all the learners till 31st December 2021. No documentation is required along with enrollment number during the registration on Virtual Open School VOS platform. The innovative initiative of NIOS, Virtual Open School will also be an incomparable step towards achieving the objectives for ODL with the insight of National Education Policy 2020. So dear learners, start study with the NIOS Virtual Open School today and move forward to secure future.
Welcome back after the break. So earlier we were discussing the different applications of the subject psychology in terms of academic psychology and application psychology. Now we have started with the history of psychology. We discussed how there is a lot of literature available in the Indian context, but what is the need to study the field currently? Because there have been social and cultural changes that have been happening, and due to that a lot of behavioral changes are also occurring. So that is why we were focusing on that part. So now we are talking about the Western world. So in the Western world, towards the end of the 19th century, Wilhelm Wundt established the first psychology laboratory in Germany, 1879. From there on, various schools of thought began. The main schools are as follows: structuralism, functionalism, behaviorism, Gestalt and psychoanalysis. So here what we are saying is that psychology as a scientific subject started in 1879. That's why earlier also we wrote 19th century was, the mark where psychology was accepted as a science subject, as a science discipline. Why? Because Wilhelm Wundt established the first psychology laboratory in Germany in 1879. And that is why Wilhelm Wundt is also known as the father of psychology. And what is, more important to note here is that when Wilhelm Wundt started this laboratory, when he established the laboratory, it showed that the human behavior can also be studied through the method of experimentation. Because usually what do we do in a laboratory? We conduct experiments, and if there is a psychological laboratory and the main motive of psychology is to study the human behavior, it means that experiments can also be conducted on the human behavior, mind and brain as well. So that is why psychology got, the flag of being a science subject or a science discipline. And फिर उसके बाद धीरे धीरे different thought schools started developing in the field. So first was structuralism, which was given by Edward Titchener. Edward Titchener was a student of Wilhelm Wundt, and he gave the first thought school, which was structuralism. After structuralism, the second school that came into play was functionalism, which is given by William James. So functionalism differed from structuralism, in the manner that structuralism talked about the structure of mind. How the mind is formed, how the behavior, what is the structure of behavior. But in functionalism, we saw the applicability part. So in terms of what is the functioning of mind, what is the functioning of behavior, what is the functioning of brain. So that is why structuralism referred to structure, functionalism referred to the function. Next was behaviorism, which was given by J.B. Watson. So behaviorism was kind of, it was in opposition to psychoanalysis, which was given by Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud's school of thought, psychoanalysis, focused a lot on unconscious desires and conscious thought and subconscious. It focused them on a lot. It basically wanted to, relate everything to id, ego and superego, and to unconscious and the sexual desires. So that's why behaviorism rose after it, because behaviorism focused more on, the objective part of behavior. It said psychology will only study the behavior that is seen, overt behavior. Whatever is visible, we will study only that part. We will not talk about the unconscious desires or, the unconscious thought. So we'll only observe what the person is doing, what is the behavior of the person, and based on that, we will study the behavior. Okay, so that is how behaviorism came into play. Next was Gestalt psychology, which was given by Wolfgang Kohler, Kurt Koffka and Max Wertheimer. So these three gave different laws of Gestalt. So there are figure ground relations, and there are different laws of perceptual organization which are under Gestalt school of thought. So let's move forward. So in modern India, psychology started at Calcutta University in 1916. Dr. N.N. Sengupta started this department, and gradually psychology departments were opened in various universities like Patna, Lucknow, Mysore. So the first discipline, the first department of psychology, modern psychology in India, was established by Dr. N.N. Sengupta in 1916 in the University of Calcutta, then Patna, then we had Lucknow, then we had Mysore, and later on, multiple universities, multiple colleges started having these departments. So in Lucknow, the college which had first department of psychology, if I'm not wrong, is King's College. So it is still very famous for its department. So next we have the major psychological perspectives. As psychology studies human behavior, and human behavior is easily influenced by various factors. So it is saying that psychology studies the human behavior, and human behavior is easily influenced by various factors. So it is necessary to keep certain things in mind while studying human behavior. So here we are going to talk about what are, the important factors that we have to keep in mind when we are conducting our research studies or when we are studying psychology, because our focus is human behavior and human behavior is easily influenced. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is observed changes can be due to maturation, learning and aging. Human behavior is an interaction between personal traits and environment. So, it is giving us that subjectivity in the field, that it is not necessary that every change will be due to learning only. It can be due to, multiple other factors also, or it is not necessary कि हर चीज maturation की वजह से हुई है, कुछ चीजें आप learn भी करेंगे. So, there are multiple factors involved in the doing of behavior. So, whatever a behavior a person is doing, there are multiple factors involved in it. For example, holding a pen. For holding a pen, growth is also important because my bones need to grow like that. Maturation is also important. So I, know what a pen does and how to hold it. So that comes with maturation. Learning how to, write with a pen. That comes from learning, practice. So there are different factors involved in a behavior. Next it says is, human behavior is an interaction between personal traits and environment. So it says that our behavior is not just, it's not just response stimulus, which was something that was given by behavioral school, but later on, organism was added into the equation that, as an organism, we have a thought process and our certain personality traits will interact with the environment that is around us. Certain situational factors will also be considered while we are giving a response. So, these are the two important elements. Next is the measurement of psychological attributes such as personality, intelligence, interest, attitude is usually indirect and based on inferences. So it says that, psychology की जो attributes है different. For example, intelligence, which is buddhi, personality, which is व्यक्तित्व. So these are not, observable in nature. You cannot observe someone's personality like that. You will make certain observations and you will say, okay, this person is very picky. How do you say that? So you say it by, you see their certain behavior. For example, they're very choosy when they are choosing their clothes, or what do they eat and what do they not eat. So you say they are very picky because, they make a fuss about everything. So that is how you actually drew out an inference. आपने उनके multiple behaviors observe किए, फिर एक inference दी. So this is how, we draw out inferences based on the different observations that we have made. Many aspects of social behavior are norm-based and culture-specific. So sometimes what happens is, certain things we do are because of the cultural or social context. So for example, at my home, I am very comfortable and I talk very loudly. But when I am outside, or say when I am in a meeting, I'll keep very quiet. Why? Because there is a certain norm of how I conduct myself in a meeting than how I conduct myself at home. At home, I know I am free, I can do whatever I want. But in a meeting, I have to conduct myself in a disciplined manner. So, we know that, there are always certain norms of how to behave in a particular situation, and we use these norms and references to conduct our behavior. Human behavior is usually determined by multiple factors. So all this and the crux of it is there, that human behavior is usually determined by multiple factors. It's not just one factor. There are multiple things involved in it. So next, now we have the different perspectives in psychology. First is biological. It is primarily concerned with the relationship between psychological processes and the underlying physiological events. So it here is saying that, what is biological perspective? Different psychological processes and the physiological processes that are involved in the behavior is studied under biological perspective. So we'll see the other perspectives after a break.
में नवीनतम शैक्षिक तकनीक का प्रयोग NIOS का सदैव एक ध्येय रहा है। मुक्त विद्यालय शिक्षण में सूचना तकनीक के साथ सार्थक नवाचारों से गुणवत्ता परक शैक्षणिक विस्तार के साथ आत्मनिर्भर भारत निर्माण की संकल्पना को बल देते हुए NIOS ने शिक्षार्थियों को गुणवत्तापूर्ण और सस्ती शिक्षा प्रदान करने के लिए एक वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल लॉन्च किया है। इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर शिक्षार्थी सभी लाइव कक्षाओं में भाग ले सकेंगे। देश भर के प्रशिक्षित शिक्षक शिक्षार्थियों के साथ बातचीत कर अपने विषय संबंधित सभी शंकाओं को दूर कर सकेंगे। यदि शिक्षार्थी किसी भी कारणवश लाइव कक्षा में भाग नहीं ले पाए, तो भी शिक्षार्थियों के लिए रिकॉर्डेड वीडियो की सुविधा भी इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर उपलब्ध होगी। शिक्षार्थियों को ऑनलाइन TMA, ऑनलाइन असाइनमेंट जमा कराने के साथ अपना आकलन, ऑनलाइन परीक्षा और वर्चुअल लैब्स के माध्यम से घर पर रहकर ही प्रैक्टिकल की सुविधा भी मिल सकेगी। साथ ही ये प्लेटफॉर्म आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस आधारित रिमोट प्रोक्टेड परीक्षा और प्रमाणन सुविधाओं से भी युक्त है। इतना ही नहीं, यहाँ पर शिक्षार्थी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, साइबर सिक्योरिटी, मोबाइल टेक्नीशियन, रिटेल मैनेजमेंट, भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा, योगा, ब्यूटी थेरेपी और भी बहुत से ऐसे कोर्स घर बैठे ही कर सकते हैं। इसके अलावा NIOS की कौशल आधारित पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री व माइक्रोसॉफ्ट पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री भी इस वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल प्लेटफॉर्म पर उपलब्ध है। शिक्षार्थियों में रचनात्मकता विकास के साथ साथ रोजगार क्षमता विकास और विभिन्न जॉब पोर्टल तक पहुंच को सुनिश्चित करना अब और आसान होगा। इसका उद्देश्य NIOS के शिक्षार्थियों व दिव्यांग जनों तक स्कूली पाठ्यक्रमों के साथ साथ उद्यमिता व कौशल विकास करते हुए समावेशी शिक्षा को सर्वसुलभ कराना है। वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल पर पंजीकरण 31 दिसंबर 2021 तक सभी शिक्षार्थियों के लिए निशुल्क है। वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल में पंजीकरण के दौरान नामांकन संख्या के साथ अन्य किसी भी दस्तावेज की आवश्यकता नहीं है। NIOS वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल का ये नवाचार दूरस्थ मुक्त विद्यालय शिक्षा के राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 के उद्देश्यों को प्राप्त करने की दिशा में भी एक अतुलनीय कदम होगा। तो आज ही NIOS के वर्चुअल ओपन स्कूल के साथ अध्ययन कर अपना भविष्य सुरक्षित करने की दिशा में आगे कदम बढ़ाएं।
Welcome back after the break. Before going on the break, we were discussing the different perspectives of psychology. So we came on to the first perspective, which was biological perspective. Next is behavioral perspective. So it says that this perspective, which is behavioral perspective, stresses on the role of environmental stimuli in determining the way people act. It argues that what we are is largely the result of past learning. So it says that behavioral perspective जो है वो stress upon करता है कि हम अपने आप को conduct कैसे करते हैं in terms of our behavior, and it also helps us in what is the role of environment. So basically what we are trying to understand here is that how environmental plays a role in our behavioral say how do we express ourselves in terms of our behavior. So let's just go through it once more and see. This perspective stresses on the role of environmental stimuli. So let me underline it, might be. So okay, role of environmental stimuli in determining the way people act. So basically stimulus which is coming from the environment and how we respond to it, which is response. So this was the behavioral perspective, how environment or the stimulus is determining our response. Next it says that it argues that what we are is largely the result of past learning. Behavioral thought school का जो एक major aspect है वो है learning. Learning is something that we have practiced or that we have had with us after experiencing certain events or certain information. And it says, behavioral perspective says that, because of learning, what all we have learned, there are, different kind of elements that are there in our behavior. If that learning did not happen in the first place, तो शायद हमारे behavior में वो traits आते ही नहीं. So, this is, learning is basically a major aspect of behavioral thought school. Next is psychodynamic perspective, which focuses on motivational questions about behavior. This perspective examines the role of internal processes. So, internal processes means the unconscious thought, the conscious thought, the subconscious thought, or mind as well. You can say it a mind as well. Ki unconscious mind, conscious mind, and your subconscious mind, pre-conscious mind. So, these are the internal elements are studied under the psychodynamic perspective. And it also sees, what is the motivation, what is the motive of doing a particular behavior. There is always a cause behind our behavior, and tapping onto that cause is one thing that psychology tries to do. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so the next perspective is cognitive perspective. According to this view, our behavior involves mental or cognitive processes such as perceiving, remembering, and thinking. As active organism, we process information and act upon it. So, cognitive perspective says that, our behavior involves mental or cognitive processes such as perceiving, which is perception, and there is attention also, there is sensation also, remembering, which is related to memory, thinking, which is thought process. So, all these different elements are studied under the cognition school of psychology. It says that active organisms process information and act upon it. So, in behavioral school, what we saw was stimulus response, but cognition gave, a mediator between them, which was processing the information. Whatever stimulus was given to us, we processed it, and then accordingly we responded to it. So, this was due to cognition. Next is humanistic thought school or humanistic perspective. It is often termed as a third force. This view talks about choice and free will in human behavior. So, till now we were seeing, that, okay, response, behavior, very automatic and very robotic also in nature. But then cognition came. It says, नहीं, सिर्फ ऐसे ही नहीं हो रहा है कि response और stimulus और response नहीं है सिर्फ. There is also thought process involved in it. But then humanistic school came and it says that, as human beings, we have a free will. We, have this choice. If we want to make a decision and if we don't want to make a decision. And if we make a certain decision, we will know the consequences. We can understand what are the consequences of it. And based on that, we make our decisions. So, humanistic thought school added a very important element of free will, of choosing doing something or not doing it. Next is the Indian perspective, which says that in this view, human beings are embedded in relationship with environment and divinity, and harmony of mind, body and soul is emphasized. So, in Indian perspective, relationship with environment and divinity, spirituality basically is also, an element. Harmony of mind, body and soul is emphasized. So, Indian psychology or Indian perspective focuses a lot on the spiritual aspect of the human being. It also focuses on the soul of the human, and that is why it talks about the balancing of mind, body and soul. We talk about the supreme soul when it comes to Indian perspective. So that's a very vast and very interesting field to understand and to know about it. So you can refer to different texts regarding Indian perspective and it will be quite interesting for you. So for now we'll move forward and we'll see what else do we have. So next is relationship of psychology with other disciplines. First is sociology. Society is composed of individuals, that is, both the subjects are interrelated. So sociology is basically society, psychology is understanding the human behavior. So how sociology and psychology connect? When you try to understand a human being in terms of its society, how the behavior is being conducted in a particular society, you're actually tapping onto the field of sociology as well. So they becomes interrelated. Under this relation, influences of social context on human behavior, phenomena such as leadership, socialization, etc. can be studied. So these are, some of the fields that can be studied under this interrelation, that is leadership or socialization. Next is anthropology. It focuses on the cultural context of human evolution. In recent years, the relationship between culture and psychology has become closer, as psychology seeks to understand how the influences of culture, mind and personality interact. So it focuses on the cultural context, how a person is behaving in a particular cultural context. So that is under anthropology, and psychology also tries to understand the influence of culture on human behavior. So that's why they are interrelated. Education. The theory and practice of education is based on the principles and findings about various psychological processes like learning, memory, motivation, personality and intelligence. So how can these different theories are applicable in the field of education in terms of motivation, personality of student can also be, understood as the interrelationship between education and psychology. Next is biology and neuroscience. We've already discussed the biological perspective, which talked about the physiological relationship of the human body and the behavior. So this is something similar to it, but it majorly focuses on the nervous system also. So that's why this perspective focuses on the understanding of localization of the brain functions, biological factors in arousal and motivation, and the role of various parts of the brain in determining psychological functioning. So these are the different fields of psychology, and these are basically the application of the theories, laws and principle. And you can see that so for example, we talked about developmental psychology, that how it is important because it studies the growth of human body. Then we talked about a little about social psychology, we talked about clinical psychology also, health psychology, engineering psychology. So these are the different applications of the field. The theories and principles that have been developed, they are applied in these fields. So lastly, we have the current trends, the changing face of psychology, emphasis on cultural context. So we are trying to study the cultural influence on the human behavior, because there are multiple cultures and they have their different norms, and how people behave in these culture is something very important to be studied. Breakthrough in neurosciences, a lot of research is going in around the human body, and it is helping us in understanding the human body functioning better, and this understanding can help us in understanding the human behavior better. Lastly, multidisciplinary concerns. So as we just discussed, there is a relationship of psychology with various disciplines which can help us in understanding the human behavior better. So that was it for today's class. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next time.